Hello Aries and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of September 2022. This reading will be for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you're curious, you can check out any and all of the readings that apply as each one of them may resonate for you differently. And before we get into the cards, as always, please do keep in mind all of these readings are general in nature. They're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals, which means that not necessarily everything that comes through will make sense for you specifically. That's why I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate, however that might connect to your personal circumstances, whatever that might evoke within you. Keep an open mind to anything that might be helpful, and you can simply leave the rest. So Aries, I hope you're doing well. I hope August was good to you and that you've been having a great summer so far. I can't believe it's almost over and we're reading for September already. That is wild, but I am super excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for sharing this time and space with me. I am dying to get a look at September and see what might be in store for you all. So I've got your oracle cards here. We will do a full read of your tarot, and then I will share with you the channeled messages that I took some time to sit down and connect with before getting your cards out. And then we will finish off the reading with a couple of affirmations and one final oracle message to kind of tie everything together. So before we jump into your cards, I'm going to share with you the channeled energetic impression that I picked up on. This is kind of like the energy that I was sensing as I was preparing for your reading, setting intentions, getting your cards ready. And it was a really interesting energy, like very different from anything that I've picked up in any of the previous readings for any of the other signs. But it was like a very nostalgic kind of feeling. And it's like particularly this time of year. So it's kind of like that back to school season. Like it kind of took me back to the way that I used to feel when I was a kid and then through like being a teenager. It was like this it was like the same kind of feeling around back to school season, regardless of how old I was and regardless of what my experiences were like. So it's kind of like looking back, reflecting on what that felt like, that like excitement and nervous anticipation. So it could be like you reflecting on that, maybe yourself, your own children. You might be in like education in some way, and so you might still be experiencing that at the beginning of September. That's like a common energy. Or it could just be nostalgic in general, like looking back on the past, and there may be some kind of strong connection to this time of year, the change in weather, the types of events that come up. So I'll leave that open to you, but it definitely took me back to an energy that I hadn't connected with in a really long time. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then beyond that, I felt like there's also kind of like a little bit of a buzz or a little bit of low-key excitement, like just like a hint of it, like not seriously palpable, but it's like kind of under the surface. Like there might be something little that you are kind of buzzing about, or maybe something that you're excited about, but you're trying not to get too ahead of yourself. Or yeah, it was kind of a weird, very kind of mild sensation. Let's see. The other thing that came through was kind of a sense, and it kind of ties together with both of those things actually, a sense of like youthfulness, like feeling like a kid again, or wanting to feel like a kid again, wanting to be, lighthearted and carefree, playful, to just have fun. So you could be connecting with your inner child, healing your inner child, allowing yourself to play and let loose a little bit more and just to relax. You may have a connection with children specifically, so that could, help facilitate that just lighthearted, play. So that was kind of a neat energy. The other thing that I will say is that if you have a lot going on, if there's a lot on your plate, or there are a lot of demands or a lot of things that you need to take care of, specifically if you have a lot of distractions coming at you, I would just say be mindful, because chances are, if you are multitasking, like if you're trying to write an email while you're talking on the phone, or you're trying to do bookkeeping while you're, while you're thinking about other things. It's like if you're not fully focused, you may actually be doing things repeatedly, right? So it's like you may not even realize that it's like you've already tended to this, you've already taken care of this, you've already done it. Because if your attention isn't fully on what you're doing, then you're not necessarily locking it in, like, okay, yep, that's done, cross it off the list and move on. Or it could just simply, obviously, distraction can just make us less focused and less efficient. So I would just say, like, that's not guaranteed to be an issue for you, but if you are feeling particularly distracted, you might be tying up a lot of extra energy, doing things more than once, or needing to like redo things. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing that came through was when I was setting intentions to connect with messages, the word that was coming through, and I use this word also because like this is my energetic impression that I was picking up on for you in your reading, but it was the word impression was coming through instead of messages. And so if you are somebody who's spiritual, or who's tuned in, or who's looking to kind of maybe amplify or practice that aspect of connecting to your intuitions or connecting to guides, perhaps that will be something that's helpful to you instead of thinking about, receiving messages or information coming through energetically in the form of a message. It may not be as clear. It may not come through as like a full sentence. It may not come through as a fully formed idea or concept. And it may just be more of an impression. So you may just get like a little bit of a sense or like a feeling, or it could be something fuzzy. It could be something that's hard to quite put your finger on, but that may that may kind of bridge the gap for you. Is like you're not necessarily looking for full-blown messages and obvious information. It might just be a bit of an impression. And the more that we use that muscle, the more that we practice at it, the easier it is to kind of become aware of the way that we receive that information energetically, and how to kind of decipher what is coming through to us. But in addition to that, I would say that even just think about impressions that you've gotten from certain people or certain jobs, certain places. When you've walked into a room and you can sense that, people have been arguing, or you may even know what they're arguing about without knowing how, kind of thing. So those are impressions that you've gotten, right? This is energy that you're sensing, that you're picking up on from your external environment, that you're not necessarily able to rectify in any logical way. So I would pay attention and maybe like look back. What are situations where, the impression that you were picking up from a person or a place or a situation ended up being proven right to you? Because the thing is, with intuition and with that kind of information, we're not always going to get that validation. We're not always going to get proof. And sometimes when we do get proof, it's so far down the line that it's not really validation. It's just kind of like, it's not like validation when we're looking for it, when we're not sure. It's validation after the fact, right? Because we can't rely on always having our intuition validated. We have to kind of know how it speaks to us. And so there could be like a sense of, it might be difficult for you to identify like what is kind of like a message or an energetic impression that you're picking up on and what is yours. So, and especially if you have a lot of information or a lot of messages or impressions that are coming to you this month, it may be difficult to decipher like what are my own thoughts and feelings, based on my experiences and the things that I'm trying to work through, and what is just information that I'm picking up on from my surroundings or people around me. So it's like, it takes time and practice to learn the difference between those. But yes, pay attention to impressions, anything that you would consider to be an impression, and try to think of the ways that you sensed certain impressions, and perhaps in time they were validated for you. Remember what that felt like, how that struck you, because quite often it's not like a logical thought process. It's not necessarily something personal to you. It's just kind of information, right? Like unbiased information. And we put the emotional spin or the judgment on it, if we're just, a lot of times when we're trying to rectify it, as though it's ours, and it's not necessarily. So that's all I'll say for that. And then finally, the last thing that came through, and this is just based on a couple of the cards, a couple of the oracle cards and tarot cards that I saw flip up, but there may be a focus on soulmate connections. So soulmates can be like family members, friends, you know, they can be colleagues that turn into friends, they can be romantic relationships. So it's people that you have like a really deep spiritual connection with. Maybe it's like, you know, kindred spirits, or people that you feel drawn to, people that you feel like you've known forever, those individuals that you can really kind of develop a deep bond with and, you know, show up as your authentic self, like those types of situations. That may be a focus, or, you know, your romantic relationships even, because the Two of Cups I saw popped out, and then the Soulmates card did as well. So there could be something to do with those kind of deep, meaningful connections and harmony in those types of relationships for you. So we'll get into your cards now. Your first oracle card, funny enough, is Conscious Connections. And so it's really funny because I did I connected to the energetic impression that I just shared with you while I was preparing these decks. So literally all I was doing was shuffling, cleansing them, setting the intention for the reading, and picking up on like whatever was kind of coming to mind. And it wasn't until after I had written everything down that I took the time to actually shuffle for the intention of having this oracle card come out. So the fact that it came out, it kind of validates that soulmate, deep connection kind of energy. So that could be very well something that is highlighted for you this month, or perhaps it's an area of focus. And then your second oracle is Your Life is a Canvas, Artist Manifestation and Creative Accountability. So this is actually like, it's kind of an interesting combination, because for them to come up together, it's indicating to me that, you know, the way that you perceive your life, the way that you perceive your personal power and your ability to affect your life, to create a life, to bring your ideas and your dreams into your reality, like to create the life that you are longing for, it may have some major connection to like a major relationship, a conscious connection, a soulmate connection, whether friend or family or a romantic relationship, or it may be deeply impacted by experiences that you've had in those deeper kind of connections. So it definitely seems like there is a highlight in terms of you potentially connecting, reconnecting, or like healing relationships of this kind of deeper conscious nature. And perhaps I will say specifically, if you have a block in terms of believing in your ability to connect with and create a life that is going to be reflective of the things that are most important to you, the things that you long for, that might have the opportunity to be cleared. Not necessarily this month, but you may very well have that energy highlighted and be able to kind of at least make some forward movement. And I don't normally, especially for this card, read from the guidebook because they're very long-winded and there's so many different talking points. But this specific card, the message isn't that long. So I figured I really liked the way that it was written. So I want to read that to you first, and then we can discuss like a little bit further. So this says, there is a call for more intimacy in your immediate relationships. There is an opening for heart-to-heart communication that can salvage and restore a broken relationship or friendship if you're willing to honor your differences and look to what unites you. Sometimes it's hard to bear the differences between one another. One person may be willing to live life in high definition, whilst another may prefer to live it more vicariously until they have the confidence to step onto the center stage of their own life story. We are not here to judge each other, just to love, be loved, and to let go of those that cannot accept us as we open up to those who can. This oracle brings guidance for you to trust in the sanctity of the connections in your life. If you have asked to experience a more sacred connection with people who truly get you and want to play life with you rather than at odds or against you, this oracle is confirmation that this manifestation is on its way to you now. It may or may not be obvious at first, but kindred spirits are going to enter your life to help you connect with your deeper feelings and creativity. They will give wings to your inspirational ideas and big dreams. If you have been asking for healing in your current friendships or other immediate relationships, know that this can happen through your willingness to express your true feelings and allow the situation to either fall apart or come together, according to the greater workings of life. Sometimes webs that have joined people together are broken, and that is appropriate, as people may outgrow what once held them together. Sometimes the ties that bind us together are so strong that they are able to withstand a great deal of pressure and still remain intact. The webs of connection between us will sever or sustain based on the higher wisdom of life itself. Either way, healing happens in the resolution of our feelings, and once we are able again to feel free, forgive, and be ready to move on to the next stage of relating, either with a person who has been in connection with us for some time or with someone new. This oracle asks you to remain open to healing connections and to allow people to be close to you. Trust in the process that draws people in and out of your life. Resist nothing and seek wisdom in all. So the thing that I really like about this the most is that this is basically saying, like, if you want to participate in these deeply conscious connections, something that's really like sacred and really meaningful with a great deal of trust and understanding, it's like you kind of have to get to that point individually. You have to meet yourself there. You have to connect to your deepest inner truths. You have to be vulnerable and honest with yourself, because it's only through knowing yourself and accepting yourself, good and bad, and being able to honestly share that, without ego, without judgment, without defensiveness, just in a solid knowing and acceptance of who you are and what you know to be right for you. It's like you have to know that before you can express that to someone else. And in order to draw in or create the opportunity for those deep and meaningful connections, whether they be, friendships or romantic relationships, it's like you have to start somewhere, right? It doesn't just happen, right? And even if there is a very deep level of connection, if we're not willing to share openly of ourselves and know ourselves and share that on the deepest level with another person, then we can actually sabotage even the most, divinely aligned connections, right? So it's like there's a choice. You have a choice to participate. And if this is what you're focused on, if this is what you want to experience and draw in, then it's basically saying the beautiful thing is it starts with you. It's not about necessarily finding the right person, but it's about being that person yourself. And when you can be that person and feel comfortable and confident, you drop your defenses, you're able to share openly and honestly. And when you share your truth openly and honestly, you can trust that people will receive that well or not. And that when you are sharing in that kind of pure and loving and defenseless kind of way, if somebody doesn't receive it well, that's not a judgment on you. It's not anything to do with your worth or your value, and it's not anything to do with the other person's worth or value. It really is not personal, although it feels personal. It can feel like a rejection or a lack of understanding, but all it purely is just a lack of alignment. And alignment is something that works in our favor. It ensures that we're not tying ourselves up in relationships or in interactions with people who can't possibly receive us or respect us or support us, and maybe people who are not necessarily going to help us along our path by connecting us with different perspectives or different resources, right? So a lack of alignment it can be a painful thing to realize, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because you only have so much energy, and if you're spending all of your energy trying to maintain connections with people who don't truly align with who you are and what you want in the first place, then it's really hard to ever get there, because you're committing yourself to something that actively counteracts whatever it is that you're trying to connect with. It's really hard to connect with your highest potential when you're surrounded by people who don't care to support that, right? And so it's not about changing another person. It's about two people being honest, and that these really deep conscious connections occur when both people are honest and forthright. Both people know themselves and are willing to lovingly accept themselves and kind of share share their deepest, desires and dreams with each other, and recognize that, either they align, either they're similar or they're complementary, or, it's just a very natural organic process. And just because it's natural and organic doesn't mean that it's going to be easy or flawless, or there aren't going to be misunderstandings or disagreements, because we're human. We have to work at relationships, and the majority of our learning and growth is actually done through relationships, right? We're not meant to be simply solitary. So it's basically saying, like, you can draw in these connections by being willing to be kind and loving and accepting of yourself, to know and represent your truth honestly, and to trust that if it's well received, then perhaps this is a person that aligns with you, that you can facilitate that kind of relationship with. And if it doesn't align, then perhaps that's somebody who's going to fall away. Or if there's a lack of alignment, then perhaps there will be a basis for, working together and compromise or strengthening the relationship. Because sometimes we end up having miscommunications that we don't realize, what the other person wants, particularly if we're trying to show up in a way that we feel like will be acceptable to someone else, if we try to avoid making them uncomfortable, that kind of stuff. So sometimes there are just things that kind of obscure our truth, and we can still align and support and respect each other, but it's not until we're able to just drop all of the other stuff that we can really connect on that raw level, and then figure out, like, okay, how are we going to heal? How are we going to come back together and work together, right? So yeah, this is saying that you have to kind of trust that the relationships that you're involved in are serving some kind of purpose, whether you judge them to be positive or negative, whether you feel like they're aligned or they're not. It's really important to just allow yourself to show up in that authentic energy, not judging yourself, not judging anyone else, not having any agenda as to how things are going to go, or expecting that you're going to be supported, expecting that you're going to be understood, expecting that the other person is going to, show up in the same energy or value the same things that you do. It's just showing up with an acceptance for what is, and allowing yourself to be open to the opportunity of connecting on a deeper level, sharing on a deeper level, and trusting that when you show up in that energy, things will go as they are meant to, right? So it's like, if it doesn't work out, then you kind of, or it does, and you kind of have your answer. But it's about trusting, it's about being kind, it's about being open-hearted, and being willing to allow the opportunity for relationships to be healed, and for connections to be mended or deepened, or perhaps to separate if that's what's required. But yeah, it all starts with you. And this isn't necessarily something that you can start, like, you can try to start doing it immediately, but depending on your level of comfort, it may be something that you need to sit with for some time to get clear on what it is that you want, so that you can be prepared to show up in that energy and meet people in that space, right? Because this is some of the biggest work that we do in our lifetime, is like allowing ourselves to give and receive love. First and foremost, our own love. If you've got a block to receiving your own love and your own kindness and compassion, and effort and energy, then it's going to be really difficult to receive that from somebody else, and also to be able to offer that to them unconditionally as well, right? So there a lot of times can be a lot of healing. And the thing is, if you meet somebody who is aligned and has a similar background or similar experiences, then chances are you can have that conscious connection, because you are doing the same kind of healing together, and you can support and understand each other through that. So there's different kind of like iterations of these types of relationships, but it's just kind of being open to the connections in your life and to seeing what they're trying to show you. And the only way to see what they're trying to show you is to approach them from this very kind of trusting and open and loving place, where it's like, whatever a person says, however they respond to you, it's like choosing to treat them with love, choosing to go in with an open mind, and a willingness to communicate and to work together, and to potentially, put in work or heal, or, find a way forward, whatever that might look like for you. So that's kind of interesting. And the other thing that's neat is that there's the connection to your creativity. right? And with your life as a canvas, it's like, so it could be forming connections with people who are more aligned to help you get more in contact or more in touch with your creative side. Because the thing, as soon as I saw this card, I started getting a whole lot of information coming through. And the thing is, so it's like artist, manifestation, creative accountability. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people judge themselves as not being creative because they don't have a really obviously strong and refined specific artistic talent, like drawing or painting or like whatever. And it's like, you don't have to have like a refined or commodifiable or commodified like skill to express creativity, to connect with creativity, to be artistic. We see art comes in all forms, right? So the thing is, it's like, if you consider yourself to be someone who is not artistic or not creative, chances are you either, like, maybe you weren't taught to value or to connect with creativity, to spend time expressing and connecting with creativity just for the sake of doing it. And so maybe you've put this limitation on yourself, like the only way that you can be creative is if you're really good at something and you're going to be producing something impressive of value. Like, you have to be a master painter and you have to be, producing some amazing work of art in order to be a creative person. And that's not the case. So it's like, you can pick up a paintbrush and just go at it. And the thing is, it's like, if you get into a creative space where it's like, maybe the color represents how you're feeling, maybe a shape represents a memory from your past, right? So it's kind of just being moved by that creative energy that's within you. It doesn't matter what it looks like, and it doesn't matter what you do with it afterward. It's the process that matters. And the more that you, just like intuition, it's a muscle. The more that you get in touch with that creativity, the more that it can move your life. And I think that it's also thinking about like your hopes and dreams. Those are art, right? Those are ideas that you have created for yourself. Maybe a vision that you hold in your mind's eye, or a feeling that inspires you to want more. And it's recognizing that you don't have to be some kind of master artist in order to have a vision or have a dream. You just have to have that inspiration and be willing to take consistent action toward it. And this is basically saying, like, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're valuing, whatever inspiration, whatever you're focusing on and drawing your motivation from, is going to essentially be what you create, what you paint on your canvas. And so the thing that I like the most about this is, it's like, yeah, you have the power of manifestation, whether you realize it or not. And the things that you manifest, right, the things that you have made manifest in your environment right now are a result of an idea or a thought or a belief from the past. And what you are thinking about and focusing on right now is basically mapping out your future. And so it's like, it might not seem that way, but it is. And if you can actually come to realize and accept the immense creative power that you have, I think that you'll take your thoughts and your ideas and your inspiration more seriously, because it really truly does manifest in your physical environment, whether you intend it to or not. And that's what I really love about this idea of creative accountability, because it's not only like, yes, if you're going to create anything, you might as well create something that you're dreaming of. But it's also up to you to make sure that dream is something that's going to be unique and beneficial to you, and not just something that you're dreaming about because, it fits like a conventional standard of like what you should want for yourself, right? But also, it's recognizing that whether you are holding yourself accountable throughout the process of creation and manifestation, in terms of checking in with yourself and seeing if your thoughts and your feelings and your actions are in alignment, and beyond that, if they actually truly align with what is most important to you, what you want to feel and experience on even the most basic like soul level, like that's creative accountability, checking in with yourself. But even if you're not doing that, the manifestation that takes shape and the life experiences that you have are going to hold you accountable, right? Because if you are manifesting from a place where you're not necessarily in alignment, or You know, maybe you're drawing on motivation that doesn't necessarily, you're drawing power from things that don't necessarily resonate with you or mean anything to you. Then it's just like, once that manifests in your physical reality, that will be reflected to you. So whatever energy, whatever intention, whatever you're thinking about right now is going to manifest in the future. And when it manifests, it's going to reflect back to you that inner state that you're in when you were undertaking that work, whether you like it or not. So it's kind of like, even if you're trying to manifest something and it doesn't necessarily turn out, it could be, you know, just bad luck, but it also could be that is a reflection. Your manifestation is holding you accountable for where you were at, what you were thinking and valuing and focusing on when you were taking action, because that you can't, there's no shortcut when it comes to that. You can't find a way around it, right? You kind of have to have that purity and alignment of intention and thoughts, feeling, action in order to kind of supercharge the manifestation process and to ensure that what you're manifesting is really what's right for you. It's like, and to be empowered to do that and recognize like, hey, if I'm not connected, if I'm not keeping myself in alignment, then what I am working so hard to create for myself is not going to be a reflection of actually what I want, but it might be a reflection of, you know, my pain or my suffering or my blocks or my wounds, right? So it's recognizing like, you have the ability to create whatever life you want, to have whatever kind of experiences you want. And even if you're in a position right now where the life that you're living looks absolutely nothing like you thought it would, absolutely nothing like you wanted it to, it's not too late, right? Because like I said, at this very moment, the things that you're thinking and feeling about, that is exactly what is being painted on the canvas. That's determining the future, and what you're living right now was a previous thought or idea. And so all it takes is harnessing your power, believing in your power, and changing your thoughts, changing your idea, right? It's like you can start right now and you can start making changes. You can start aligning with the things that inspire you. And connecting to, like, having a creative outlet, connecting to your creativity and finding a way to express that might also help you to realize, right? Like, it's kind of, the life that you live is going to be unique to you, and you get to decide what that looks like. And if you're not happy with what that looks like, then chances are you maybe haven't been feeling super empowered, or maybe you haven't realized that that's what you've been creating for yourself as a result of, you know, yeah, maybe some blocks, maybe some wounds, maybe some limiting beliefs. So there's also a chance that there's healing to be done there, and that, like, maybe a reconnection with hope. It's not too late to have a life that you enjoy, or to make changes that are going to improve your quality of life or take you closer to, you know, where it is that you want to be. Okay. Okay. So this is interesting here. We've got your cards. I'm going to get you clarifiers. So your first card for this month is showing up as Justice, and then you've got the Six of Wands, followed by the Four of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles. So we're going to get, and we've got the Sun at the bottom of the deck. So we're going to clarify all of these cards, and then we'll do a full read. So we'll clarify the Justice card first. Justice card is clarified by the Eight of Wands. Six of Wands is clarified by the Three of Swords. Oopsies. Okay. Now we'll clarify the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles is clarified by the Eight of Pentacles. And then finally, we will clarify this Ace of Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles is clarified by judgment. Oh, wow. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Five of Cups. Well, this is a very interesting progression. We might get very specific in some areas. It may be very specifically related to relationships. That's why I'm not surprised. I was picking up, it doesn't have to be soulmates. It can just be like relationships in general, like all of the relationships you've had in your life and what the qualities have been. But with the Sun and the Five of Cups at the bottom of the deck, it's very, very interesting because these are two almost contradictory energies. So every card has like a shadow aspect and a light aspect. So there's a positive and negative interpretation. There's positive and negative qualities or situations that can be attributed to each. But just as they stand, like the Sun is all about, you know, happiness, joy, lightheartedness. It can be also a lot about, you know, experiencing childlike joy and wonder, that youthful energy, connecting with children in our lives, connecting to our inner child. You know, it's like the sun shining on you, all of the things that make you feel happy and warm and, you know, just excited about life. Like this is like all the good stuff. And then it's clarified by this Five of Cups, which is very opposite. Right? So you can see here, she's got all of these cups in front of her, and the cups represent our opportunities for love and happiness, depth of connection, joy, fulfillment. You know, like you potentially, it could be career, it could be in relationships, it could be, you know, personal development, any, it could apply to anything. It's like anything that's meaningful to you, anything that you're hoping to connect to happiness and meaning through. And this can be having a lot of hurtful or negative or disappointing experiences, and recognizing like just because you've come across opportunities that you thought were going to fulfill you, that you thought were going to bring you immense love and happiness or connection, whether it's a job, whether it's, you know, a topic of study, like going to school, whether it's a relationship, whether it's moving to a new home or a new city or country, whatever the case may be. It's recognizing that just because that opportunity didn't necessarily pan out as we wanted it to, or as we expected it to, or even if it did turn out to be something really positive in nature, perhaps it wasn't meant to last, perhaps it was kind of ended prematurely or before you would like it to. This can be like any kind of sadness, any kind of disappointment relating to that. It's recognizing that this really just comes back to alignment, like I was saying within relationships. So it's like if something isn't working out, or something that you hope to be absolutely wonderful, be all end all isn't, it can be really demoralizing. It can be really heartbreaking, but it's just another way that the universe is helping us to recognize what is in alignment and what isn't. So you know how they say like there's no such thing as rejection. It's, you know, divine protection. So it's like trying to keep that in mind. And I know that it doesn't necessarily make it any easier to bear on an emotional level. And this cups suit is really all about our emotional experiences and our subconscious. But it's recognizing that just because it's happened doesn't mean that you have to be committed to that sadness, or committed to that lost experience, or committed to that disappointment. You don't have to hang on to it and wear it like a coat and allow it to just absorb into every other aspect of your life and potentially taint future opportunities. Because there's always another opportunity. There's always something else. And if you haven't found it yet, right, that thing, that happiness, if you haven't found it yet, it's still out there, right? And so it's recognizing that just because things have disappointed you in the past, or certain things haven't worked out, doesn't mean that everything that you care about and everything that you're excited about is destined to fail or not to work out or to end in heartbreak. It's trusting that, you know, as you come into a deeper understanding of who you are and what's important to you, you're going to continue to have experiences that reflect back to you your values. And so if something doesn't work out and something doesn't align or something isn't making you happy, as much as you can take it as a loss or a failure, it's actually just additional clarification, or you've learned something else about yourself that's going to help you refine and move toward whatever that happiness is, even if you don't have a clear picture and even if you don't know exactly what that is. So it's like there's always another opportunity, and you can choose to stay in the past and stay connected to the things that haven't worked out, or you can allow yourself to just let it go. And that can be a really draining emotional process, because you see it's like whatever it is spilling out of this cup and going down going down the hole, and it's like almost like there's a part of her going with it. And that's like, I would say, her sadness, right? So her sadness and her connection to that experience, it's like being willing to let that go. You take the lesson, you take the blessing, you take whatever you've learned and whatever you've been fortified by, and you let go of anything that isn't actively serving you. You had that experience, so you honor it by taking what you can and allowing yourself to move forward. And so this is very much the card of like, there's no use crying over spilled milk. If it's done, it's done. You don't have to live with that milk on the floor for the rest of your life and then beat yourself up, every 5 seconds about the fact that it was spilled and wasted, right? Like, that's not going to serve you. And so perhaps you have come to a realization that you may be blocking yourself from connecting with and experiencing opportunities for this like unbridled joy and happiness that the sun represents. Or you may have all of those opportunities and you may have a lot of happiness available to you already, but it's just your fixation on past disappointments or the things that haven't worked out that have prevented you from being able to really fully experience that joy. So there could be a sense of there could be a sense of clarity of like a need to let go of disappointments, a need to let go of hurts, a need to let go of things from the past that aren't serving you, to allow yourself the opportunity to enjoy things right now, to allow yourself to focus on the love and the fulfillment and the abundance that you do have. Because especially if you want to bring in more, it's really difficult to bring in love and happiness and abundance if you're in this very sad energy, right? So you may have come to realize how the power is in your hands, and maybe it's just your point of focus that has been keeping you from really fully embracing happiness. And the thing that's kind of beautiful as a follow-up, because this is the underlying influencing energy, could be in the past, deep past or recent past, or it could be something that's currently still, that you're still kind of working through, that's influencing this progression. But your strength this month is showing up as Justice and the Eight of Wands. So Justice is all about kind of like balancing things out, balancing out our light and dark, handling things in a way that is fair and just, being fair and just to ourselves, learning to appreciate our complexity and our duality, and recognizing that we're always going to be kind of moving from one end of the spectrum to the other. We're always going to have the shadow and light kind of competing for attention. Some days we may be more in our light, some days we may be more in our shadow, but that is part of the human experience, and we're meant to learn equally beneficial lessons from both types of energies. And so it's about kind of like releasing judgment and figuring out how to balance that energy out, because that allows us to be in an empowered state where we are taking care of ourselves and we're doing what is right for us. So the sword kind of represents your truth, and that is how you can kind of balance out your life, because what is going on inside is going to be reflected outside, right? So it's like Justice is also a card of karma, that like things, what goes around comes around, what you put out will come back to you, right? So it's like in the positive sense that if you're putting out a lot of good stuff and currently things are not working out, then it's like that good stuff comes back to you in one form or another, whether you realize it or not. And the same with the not so good stuff, right? And so that's something to help keep us accountable in terms of doing our inner work and trying to keep ourselves in check. So it could be like the logical brain and the emotional brain. It could be happiness and sadness, but there is a sense of balancing things out, having a sense of clarity of what is right and true for you. And that is kind of highlighted as a strength and a superpower for you this month, is like coming into acceptance of yourself as a whole ass human being, not just somebody who has to be good all the time and hide the not so pretty stuff, because the not so pretty stuff makes you human. And your ability to accept that and to treat yourself with kindness and compassion, and even to share that with people in a vulnerable way, just makes you more relatable, right? It shows people that they don't have to put up a facade. And so I think that coming to that new level of acceptance of yourself is something that you may very well be able to do this month. And it's only going to bode well for your deeper, more conscious connections, right? Because that's the groundwork that has to be done for you to show up in that energy. And the nice thing for it to be clarified by the Eight of Wands is the Eight of Wands is a card of very passionate, fiery, confident kind of forward movement. It's a card of a lot of action. There can be a lot of connection, a lot of communication. There can be a lot of like opportunities maybe to socialize or to connect with other people, maybe a lot of opportunities for creative expression. That will kind of be very relevant to your specific situation. But it's kind of saying, so for this to come up as your strength for this month, it's like clarity on balancing yourself out, what you need to do to kind of honor your personal truth, and to recognize that some days it'll be easier than others to stay in that truth. Some days will be wanting to maybe, fall into our emotions and perhaps respond in anger and vindictiveness if somebody wrongs us. But this is about like knowing what's right and doing what's right even when it's difficult, and what's right by other people, what's fair and just for you. Because if you allow yourself to kind of ignore that, that will come back to you in one way or another. And it's really hard to connect with fair and just relationships if you're not being fair and just with yourself and also other people. So this can also be that like open-mindedness to love and acceptance, and just what the world, what your relationships, what your experiences are trying to show you. There is the possibility that there could be just a lot of action, a lot of excitement, a lot of opportunities to connect with things that are inspiring and passionate. So this is like a creative card too. So it's like you might be connecting with new people that get those creative juices flowing, or that connect you with new opportunities or new experiences to step into a new energy that's really going to be revitalizing. So that will obviously play out differently for each and every one of you, but it's kind of like just go for it, just take action, just do it, just enjoy yourself, shine your light, like express yourself, go after what it is that you want, and trust that you will be able to keep yourself in balance and do what's right, even if you have challenging interactions, even if maybe you're not feeling great about yourself. It's recognizing that you have the ability to kind of cut through all of the noise and know what's best, and have that kind of accountability. That this really highlights this creative accountability for me as well, because with this sword, with this being like an air sign card, I think it's Libra that this card is specifically connected to. But yeah, it's all about what's going on in your mind. What you believe to be true is true, because that's where you make your decisions based on, and that's how you take action in the world, and that's where the place that you're creating from. So it's like what you believe, what you think will make or break you, right? So it's like if it's serving you, it can take you in a really beautiful direction because you're able to manifest that. And if it doesn't serve you, then that's going to manifest too, and it might make your external situation more difficult, right? So it's recognizing that you have this creative accountability to be aware of what your truth is, and to be aware of, the fact that your thoughts are manifesting at all times, and to do what you need to do to make sure that you're approaching life and thinking about yourself, thinking about other people, thinking about your life and the opportunities available to you in a way that serves you, because whatever you think, it's true, and it's going to be reflected back to you. So I really, really love that. That's a very empowering card, and it's got a lot of like positive energy and movement behind it. Now, your struggle or your challenge that may be preventing you from connecting with your highest good this month is showing up as the Six of Wands clarified by the Three of Swords. So this is interesting. This could come up in a couple of ways. This is generally a card of victory, right? Of seeing like maybe the fruits of your labor, successfully completing something. It could be receiving recognition, validation. It's kind of like being victorious, accomplishing something. And you're not necessarily at the end of the road. Your story isn't done, but it's like being celebrated, celebrating yourself. And there's a highlight, and it's like this, there's the opportunity for transformation as well. And I think the interesting thing is, like, for these cards to come up together, it's like there's some amount of heartbreak, and it could be heartbreak in the past, some type of betrayal, some type of loss. Like, it could be a loss of a sense of self, a loss of a relationship, something tangible. But this is like a very challenging energy where it's like it's kind of cut you through the heart. There can be a lot of grief, there could be a lot of suffering related to it. So it could be in relation to your ability to feel successful, to celebrate yourself, to receive praise and recognition, and to truly feel good about yourself, or like you've done enough. Because the thing is, if you don't celebrate yourself and you don't allow yourself to be celebrated, particularly if you're working hard and you're accomplishing your goals, if you're always moving on to the next thing, it's really hard to sustain your motivation and your momentum if you don't allow yourself to celebrate and to benefit from your hard work, right? And if other people are trying to praise you or recognize you and you're always downplaying or undercutting your achievements, because if you're setting goals and working hard toward them so that you can achieve them and benefit from them, then your actions are saying, hey, like, I want to do well. I want to experience love. I want to experience success. I want to have like $1 million, whatever it is that you're working toward. It's recognizing that you can be taking action and you can actually be getting there. But if you don't allow yourself to recognize your hard work and recognize what you've manifested or created for yourself, then effectively, although you may be doing it, you're also kind of blocking and contradicting that energy at the same time. And if you've done something and you've accomplished it and you don't get to celebrate it or recognize it, then it's kind of hard to continue. It's kind of hard to believe that you can continue to manifest. And it's also kind of hard to be engaged in whatever it is you're trying to create. So this could be however you gauge success is like, if there's an area of your life that you feel like, wait, wow, I've been successful and I've done exactly what I set out to do. And maybe another area of your life you feel like a failure, or you feel like you made the wrong decision, or things just don't look like you wanted them to look. And it could be heartbreaking for you, or it could be as a result of a heartbreak. So it could be that it's actually this low, sad, like disappointed, heartbroken energy that's actually informing your sense of feeling like you haven't done enough, or feeling like you don't deserve to feel successful, or feeling like you're not worthy of love or happiness or abundance. And so this is showing up as your block. So it's like you may come to the realization that your self-worth is something that has been needing some attention and potentially has been undercutting you and kind of robbing you of joy. It's almost like a similar energy here. And so instead of allowing yourself to grow and to be transformed by your proven ability to accomplish things and to be successful, you are cutting yourself down and saying that what you did isn't important and what you did isn't enough and you didn't work hard enough and you don't deserve to enjoy it. So if that resonates for you at all, there's probably some healing to be done. And with the Three of Swords being here, it also could be related to some kind of wound or trauma. So this could be like any kind of sword that cuts us. It could be generational trauma, something that was passed down to you. It could be something that someone said to you, in your foundational years. It could be an expectation that was set of you that you would be, that it's not okay to celebrate, or that you never can do enough, or you never will be enough. So there may be some investigation as to what it is, and what kind of wound needs to be healed in order for you to be able to embrace this success, because it's hard. It's hard to connect with more success when you don't feel success to begin with, or you fight or undermine your ability to get there. And you're being encouraged to move through this challenge by connecting with this Four of Pentacles and Eight of Pentacles energy. And what's really interesting is like, so, you know, 8 is 4 doubled. So we've kind of got the foundation, and then we've got like the more refined energy of that. So it's to recognize that, and this is a card of like material stability and material abundance. It's often a card of foundations. So it's like, we might not have everything, or we might not have the most of everything, but we certainly have, at the very least, a solid foundation that we can build upon. And the thing is, in order to be able to build upon that foundation, we kind of need to release any fear, any anxiety of failure, any sense that like, that we can't possibly manifest that what we're trying to, we can't possibly achieve what we're trying to, or we'll never have the financial stability or the job that we will feel confident about. And it's recognizing that, so this Four of Pentacles can be the miser card, right? And it's like, it's a fear of spending money or investing money, or even believing that you're capable of connecting with more money, because it's like, if you don't hold on extremely tightly to everything that you do have, you may be at risk of losing it. But it also goes to show that the more tightly that you cling to something, you're completely occupied. So if your hands are on all of your pentacles and you're holding on for dear life because you don't want to lose them, you also don't have a free hand to receive anything. So it's kind of, it can be a strong foundation to build upon if you're empowered to take action, but it can also be an energy that you can confine yourself to, or get stuck in and get into like a negative feedback of loop of fear and anxiety, because it's really difficult to move forward if you can't, you know, let go to some extent. And the nice thing is that it's clarified by the Eight of Pentacles, and the Eight of Pentacles reminds us that everything takes time. Everything takes time and effort and practice. Some things may manifest more quickly and easily, you know, based on who we are and what we're meant to learn. But there is a process of refinement, right? So it shows the moon cycles here. And this is basically like anything that's important to you, anything that's meaningful to you, especially if it's something that you have to work at that doesn't necessarily come easily. It's basically saying like, the more that you can show up in that consistent energy and just take those small consistent steps every day in the direction of where you're hoping to get, eventually that ends up, you know, moving you forward. Eventually that ends up manifesting into something. Sometimes we get so carried away with what the end goal looks like versus where we are right now, that it just becomes overwhelming, and it kind of makes us withdraw in fear. And this is basically saying that you can kind of connect the dots this month, and this is going to help you realize your worth and really accept what you've been able to accomplish, and heal the things that keep you from being able to feel inspired to move in the direction of more, right? So it could be overcoming fear, overcoming limitation, overcoming a lack mindset, and connecting more with abundance, and recognizing like, even connecting with abundance is a work in progress. It's something that we need to practice. It's something that we need to refine. So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you want to do or that you want to move toward, it's recognizing it takes time and consistent effort. We have to continue showing up, even if it's not glamorous, because this is the card of putting in the time to master a skill, right? So it's like, if you were a student, how would you approach learning this, right? It's like, you kind of just have to be consistent, and you have to allow yourself the opportunity to learn. You have to allow yourself the opportunity to stumble and fall or regress or to fail or to get like anything less than 100%, because that is part of the learning process. This is part of the learning process. And I think you can make a big leap from this fear and kind of constriction to this more expansive, like, hey, I have been working on it. I am working on it. I'll continue to work on it. And I'm getting to where I want to be, because it's that step by step, it's that consistent dedication. And they say like, at the very least, it takes like 30 days to form a habit. So it's like, think of it in that sense. The more that you do it, the easier it becomes. Like, practice makes perfect. And just because you haven't perfected something doesn't mean that you're a failure. And it also doesn't mean that nothing's ever going to work out. So it's like, I think maybe you're seeing how you can make the leap and recognize your foundation and build upon it. And it's just a practice. It's not something to judge yourself based on or to take too personally. And the really beautiful thing that comes as just your overall advice for this month is the Ace of Pentacles, which is all about, you know, having fertile ground to plant a seed of intention in. And the seed of intention may be something that has the opportunity to manifest in your physical reality. It could be a job, it could be money, it could be health, it could be something to do with like home, family, any kind of like material abundance. And it's just like an opportunity to start something new, to start a new manifestation, to have that seed of inspiration that you're willing to plant, and then to do the work to slowly tend and maintain until it gets to the point where it comes into fruition. Your manifestation comes into your physical reality and you're able to enjoy that abundance, right? And then you start the cycle over again. And the lovely thing is that the seed of intention, this new opportunity to move in a new direction or to create something new, is kind of imbued with this freedom from judgment, freedom from judging yourself, from judging others, from fearing being judged, from judging your experiences, from judging what is possible and what isn't, or the way the world works. It's basically like allowing yourself to just be in the moment and experience things as they come, and to be aware of what you're experiencing, what you're meant to learn. Because if we're busy judging something as positive or negative, or judging ourselves as positive or negative, or playing it small because we're afraid of being judged or rejected, that's going to impact whatever it is that we're manifesting. We might want to manifest something that's going to be really beautiful and freeing for us, but it's really hard to connect with something and create something that's going to be freeing and really all about our authentic enjoyment if we're stuck in a place of judgment, right? So this can be like forgiveness of self, and expanded self-acceptance, and coming into radical honesty with yourself. And self-acceptance is that very groundwork and that energy that allows you to balance things out and show up in a loving and honest way that allows you to just have the experience that you're meant to have. It allows life and your relationships and your experiences to show you more of yourself, to reflect yourself back to you, and for you to kind of figure out what aligns and what doesn't, because that's also part of you navigating your path. And so I think that's a really nice note to end this progression on, is it's like you can build something completely new. You can start on a new path to manifesting something beautiful that doesn't have to be tainted by judgment. It doesn't have to be limited or boxed in. It can be something that is very unique to you. So I love that for you guys. I'm going to share with you quickly your channeled messages, and then we'll get you an affirmation and a final oracle card to end things out. So the first channeled message that came, it was campfire, but it was more of a vision than anything. And again, it took me back to like my childhood experience. So this could be like another like nostalgic thing, a campfire or sitting around a fire for you. It took me back to like, you know, days at the cottage, and like the feeling of being at the cottage and having a fish fry, and then, you know, roasting marshmallows and everyone sitting around the fire into the evening. And then that was like the memory that sparked it. So you might have some kind of connection to, or some kind of a nostalgia related to campfires or sitting around a fire. It's obviously something I've experienced in a number of settings, but it may be something that you look back on fondly, right? And that's like, there's something about campfires and being out in nature that's just very peaceful and calming. You know, being disconnected from everything else opens the door to kind of a deeper level of connection between people. Like there's something about sitting around a fire that unites people, and opens the door for kind of reflective conversation. So that might be something that you're reflecting on. It might be something that you have a connection to. It might even be something worth doing this month, especially as the weather is getting cooler, like maybe if that's something that sparks an interest in you, maybe having a campfire this month is going to offer you an opportunity for a connection. The next message that came through was angelic presence. So being aware of an angelic presence or hoping to connect with an angelic presence, especially if you believe in angels and you're somebody who asks your angels for guidance or support or assistance. So it's like, if you haven't done that, maybe try doing that, just voicing your concerns and what you need, and just being open to any way that might be acknowledged or validated for you. Or if you have had experiences doing that in the past, it's like, proof that those signs and synchronicities, those things that feel, validating for you, that it's real, it's a thing. So that may be a point of focus for you. You may be receiving some kind of sign of an angelic presence, especially if you're setting the intention to connect with that energy. And when I asked like what kind of signs might be most obvious this month, it was like feathers or specific birds, which I feel like is always like a really cliche one. But the second one was shadows or like flickers in the corner of your eye. So it's like, and I know that can be kind of disconcerting. It doesn't necessarily sound like something really lovely, but it's like if you catch like a flicker of like a shadow out of your peripheral vision, that also could be validation if that's something that you experience. And then the next thing that came through was divine intelligence. So the fact that we're connecting to divine intelligence, we obviously have like, free will, and there's only so much that's within our control. So all we can do is our best to learn and to grow and to heal, to be open to our experiences, and to do our best to kind of work with what we've got, but also just being open to trust and to be molded by our experiences, and to kind of trust that there is a divine intelligence, connecting us all, that's helping kind of weave our life, whether sometimes it may be more obvious than others, but it's kind of like having that realization, having that understanding, maybe coming to a deeper level of understanding how that is the case, and kind of like a sense of having more confidence in surrendering and trusting that certain things are out of your control for a reason, and you're right where you need to be, having the experiences that you need to have, and that might help you be open to things that you feel particularly resistant to. And then the last thing that came through was pat on the back, which is really interesting because that's what made me think of this success card, right? So pat on the back. So it's like giving yourself a pat on the back, recognizing your hard work, recognizing your progress, taking a moment to look at like where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's like, you might be judging progress in a way that doesn't necessarily serve you and isn't actually necessarily reflective of your growth. It's important to recognize you may not have grown or succeeded in any and all area, and like every and all area, but it's taking a look at the lessons you've learned and how you've grown and how you've developed and how your perspective has shifted, and the things that you've been able to achieve, and just giving yourself the opportunity to appreciate them, to feel good about them, to believe in yourself, and to feel confident in your capabilities, and like to allow yourself to receive a pat on the back. And so it's like your hard work and progress is the most important part, because it's a progress, it's not perfection. And so this is especially important if you're somebody who's very hard on themselves or has very high expectations, because it can be easy to just kind of overlook it or move on to the next thing. So it's like you need to take time to celebrate, allow yourself to feel worthy, right? And that's part of the healing process of this. And also to accept praise and recognition from other people, accept compliments, right? It's not going to spoil you. If anything, it will energize you and help you connect with more inspiration, more motivation, and more confident belief in your ability to succeed in creating the life that you desire, right? So it's like we all need that pat on the back. We all need that validation. It's important not to live for it or to do things specifically for that, but it's important to allow yourself to experience that because it's like, I kind of feel like you're overdue. So we will get you a couple of affirmations and then a final oracle card. So I'm sorry this reading is so long. This month's readings have been insanely long, I think. Just with the number of cards I've chosen to do, the type of spread, and this particular oracle deck always has a lot going on, I find. Okay, so let's see what affirmations are going to help you or be beneficial for you this month. Oh, I've been doing 2, but you guys got 3, so you have a bonus. Your first one is I trust my inner voice. I think that's really important because that inner voice, that intuition, those impressions that you get are going to help you navigate, you know, what you need to focus on, what the right direction for you is, what you need to heal to help you become more open to your experiences. So it's trusting, you know what's best for you. You can take action, and that action is just going to move you forwards and maybe even more quickly than you anticipated. And your second is I release all negative thoughts of the past and all worries about the future. So very much present moment awareness, recognizing that it doesn't serve us to focus on or be caught up in the past. And also anytime that we're thinking about or worrying about the future, we are just projecting our past experiences into the future, which doesn't necessarily serve us. It doesn't necessarily allow us to connect with the wealth of possibility that's available, and certainly not our highest possible outcome. So it's trusting that it's okay. It's okay to disconnect from past and future. It's okay to just exist in this present moment and present moment awareness, to be aware of what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, what your inner voice is saying, what you're being called to do, letting go of judgment and worry, and just seeing what life is trying to show you, what you're being asked to learn, what you're being asked to let go of, what you're being asked to kind of master, or in what ways you're being asked to level up, and just allowing yourself to move through that and trusting that that's going to move you forward in a way that will be beneficial to you. And finally, we have I am at peace with my past. Yeah, so you may have a heavy focus on the past, past relationships, past experiences, past disagreements, disappointments, heartbreak, and you may be unnecessarily kind of torturing yourself and keeping yourself tied to that energy in spite of a desire to move forward and in spite of a desire to experience more happiness and fulfillment and wanting to have, a life that is happy, right? And abundant and not reflective of this. So it's like if you don't make peace with your past, it's going to stick with you and follow you. But not only that, it's going to be woven into everything that you're doing right now. And like I said, what you're focusing on right now is what's creating your future. So it's important to make sure, like, when you're manifesting, that you're not manifesting more pain or from a place of pain or focused on the past, but just an openness to connect with something new. And you don't necessarily know what that future may be, because it's kind of meant to be an adventure. And it's not something that can necessarily be determined, because it'll be very unique to you. And there's a process of uncovering that kind of needs to happen, right? Every happiness is a universal thing, but it can look very different for each and every one of us. So having a willingness to let go of the past, to be at peace with the past, allows us to connect with more peace and happiness in our present moment, which allows us to manifest from a place of peace and happiness and ultimately draw more of that into us. So if all that you do is just start to practice gratitude and appreciate the blessings and the abundance that you currently have, at the very least, that is just going to make you a magnet for more of those things, because what we focus on is ultimately kind of what comes to us. Oh, and funny, so your final oracle card this month is To Be Fair, which is a very similar energy to this Justice card. So maybe this will do a better job of explaining the energy than I did. So I'm just going to read it directly from the book. Let's see. Okay, so To Be Fair. Essential meanings: balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, the law of cause and effect. So yes, this is just hammering home this point. And then this is your strength for this month. So this could potentially hold the key for you to kind of make a little bit more sense of this whole progression. So the Oracle's message: life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing, yet over time they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis, to doing, from discovering, to loving, to letting go, to being again. Life is a pendulum swinging between all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause there is an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. And then relationship message: can you find a way to achieve fairness right now? This is a time for listening as well as speaking, for understanding as well as asking to be understood. There is much to be learned, and you will learn it if you remain open and objective, weighing options and considering all sides. Your heart wants to connect to others, so allow for a balanced exchange of ideas and actions. The best kind of relationship is one in which there is mutual benefit and each party feels heard, valued, and respected. Be fair to all. So it's like you kind of have to be the leader with that energy, I think. And prosperity message: now is a time for even exchanges. Justice will prevail and you will be treated accordingly. In all your affairs, you will be able to negotiate fair settlements. Mutual gain is the gift to you and your partners and colleagues. This is also a good time to square your finances and take stock of how you're compensated for your work. This card signifies balance, justice, and negotiations, so remember that all things must be fairly recompensed. Keep this as your truth, and so it will be. Protection message: injustice and inequity are a part of life, but they do not have to define your experience. So that could be this too, this heartbreak, this challenge. This is a time when you may observe an injustice righted and fairly redressed. Perhaps you came to the rescue of someone else or are called to answer for a personal slight. You will be amazed by the sense of power that surges through you when you stand up for yourself and for others. This card also indicates a good time to advocate for others who are less fortunate. Choose your cause and commit to it, because you can make a difference. One thing is for certain: if fairness is your intention, the situation will be resolved for the highest good of all concerned through acts of kindness, empathy, and courage. Right? And the thing is, it takes strength to be fair and to exemplify, kindness and compassion. And so it can be a difficult road to walk, but it is, beneficial for everyone, right? It's an honorable way to do things. And it makes it easier for you, particularly when you're in emotional situations, to not be bound by those kinds of emotional reactions and recognize that you can be empowered to kind of balance things out in a way that kind of takes everyone's needs into consideration and offers a respectful understanding of where everyone is coming from, regardless of if you agree on a personal level or if it, meets your expectations or what you want to see or hear. So I think that's a really empowering energy for you this month, Aries. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great month. If you did enjoy this reading, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, leave me a comment to let me know how it resonates. Beyond that, if there's anyone you can think of that might be interested or might benefit from my readings, you can feel free to share my content or my channel with them. And if you haven't already, make sure you head over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Ensure you're not only subscribed, if not already, but also signed up for notifications, which is the little bell icon, because that will keep you up to date on new readings as they are posted. So Aries, again, thank you for being here and sharing this time and space. I apologize it was such a long reading, but I really enjoyed it. It was an absolute pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to reading for you again next month. And in the meantime, until we reconnect, I'm wishing you all the very best.